Yo, hey everybody, this is Steve Coleman and we're coming to you again with another episode of PTC Live. And as usual, we have a great cast of characters with us, Miss Laura Boone and Miss Lena Scott. And they're going to be talking about one of our fantastic programs, one of our technical programs in our healthcare division. Laura Boone is our program director for the Cardiovascular Technology program, and Miss Lena Scott is our clinical coordinator for invasive cardiography technology program. And let me make sure I said that right, cardiovascular technology program. And right now, we want to bring in Miss Laura Boone. Laura, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing very, very well, Laura. You're not nervous, are you, or anything like that?
No, absolutely not.
Laura, one of the things that you and I have talked about on a number of occasions, you know, we've been together at recruiting events, we've been together out in the community, and you've always done such a fantastic job of working with people to get them to understand things about the healthcare programs, all of our healthcare programs. But in particular today, we're going to talk to you about our cardiovascular technology program. So I want you to talk to me a little bit and tell everybody about our cardiovascular technology programs, and in particular, you know, kind of focus on the difference between the tracks of cardiovascular technology and some other things. So we'll let you start there.
All right. So we have two main tracks for our associate's degree programs. That's our invasive cardiovascular technology program and our adult echocardiography program. These professions both investigate the heart, and particularly with the invasive side, they're able to treat the heart in many ways. But they're also very different. In echo, we use ultrasound to investigate the heart. With invasive, they do heart catheterizations. So you're talking about ultrasound, just putting a probe on the outside of the body, on the chest, to scan different areas of the heart to make sure there's no abnormalities or to identify abnormalities when they are seen, versus going, so that's sort of non-invasive, right? Versus the invasive specialist, which is actually performing heart catheterization side by side with the cardiologist. They're running catheters and guide wires into the patient's body through access areas such as in their radial artery or their femoral artery. So both are looking at the heart, but both are very different. Another difference with this is that echocardiography, you're working one-on-one with that patient. So you're by yourself, the cardiologist is not with you. You're by yourself and you are identifying problems with the person's heart, making measurements and things like that, versus in the cath lab, you're working with a team of folks. You're working with a nurse, the cardiologist, a circulator, a monitor tech, and all of those folks are working together to get that heart catheterization done and done safely, to figure out what's wrong with the heart and try to treat it while they're actually in doing the heart cath. So non-invasive adult echocardiography versus invasive, being working independently versus working with a team.
Okay. Now, so were we talking about vascular sonography then, or is vascular sonography something else a little bit different? Because I here to check with you on vascular sonography. And that, you know, that just sounds so interesting to me because it sounds so deep. Talk about vascular technology.
So vascular ultrasound or vascular sonography is an add-on program that we have here at Piedmont Tech. It's for people that are already registered adult echocardiographers or registered diagnostic medical sonographers. So basically they already are credentialed in some type of sonography program or some sort of sonography field. And they're coming back to make themselves more marketable by learning vascular ultrasound. With vascular sonography, you are actually looking at the blood vessels in the body. So echocardiography is the heart and the vessels coming into and leaving the heart, where vascular sonography is looking at the rest of the blood vessels in the body. You've heard of people having carotid artery stenosis or blockages in their legs or aneurysms of their aorta in their abdomen. That is something, those are things that are identified through vascular sonography.
Oh, that's excellent. Wow. So our students are doing all of those things on our campuses and in our labs. That is absolutely incredible. And speaking of students, our health science programs are some of the most popular programs that we have. People are coming from all over the place. I know there's, huge numbers of students applying. Tell me about distance learning options. I know we're in COVID, we're being responsive as an institution, but distance learning has long been a big part of our programs prior to the circumstances that we're in now, correct?
So interesting enough, prior to COVID, we were a traditional face-to-face delivery program. Since COVID, we've had to go online for distance learning. And coming out of COVID, looking forward to the fall and after, we have gotten a lot of feedback from our students that have done the online, and we have found out that they prefer more of a hybrid format where we will do some things face-to-face, specifically the hands-on parts, and then we will be able to do a lot of the content through online delivery. So this is going to allow us to reach more students. I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but about 40% of the cardiovascular technology students are outside of our 7-county region. That means that we're serving a very large area of the state, and even Northeast Georgia as well.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Well, of course, the next question. The next question has to be, with all that type of technology, all of that training, and such a large reach for the program, job availability. Tell us a little bit about the outlook for jobs in echocardiography.
Well, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we're looking at a growth of about 26% through 2026. So that's faster than average growth. And our students are getting jobs, they're getting placed. So we feel pretty good about it. The median pay range in South Carolina for a echocardiographer is $69,000. A salary range is typically between $52,000 for entry level and $89,000 for those senior technologists or senior cardiac sonographers. When folks are looking online for job availability, they might want to try looking for diagnostic cardiac sonographer jobs or echocardiographer jobs. It may be called either one of those if they want to check and see what's available before applying.
That's great. And, I always have a story to share is that my niece went through your program, Anisha Boozer.
Yes, I know Anisha.
Yeah, and she told me to tell you hello.
Yes.
But she's working in the field and she's really, really enjoying it. So I can share one story of a successful young lady that I know very closely on through the program, speaks very highly of yourself and the other instructors and the experience that she's had, and who is going in that field. And she's from Newberry, South Carolina, doing well.
Well, what you should know is she's actually one of our preceptors. So she precepts students that are coming through our programs, because where she works at in Columbia is one of our clinical sites.
Okay.
So we have many of our students that have come through this program are now precepting students that are coming to clinical at Self, at Bon Secours in Greenville, at Spartanburg. So it's great to see those success stories and see how they're sort of paying it forward, I guess, for students that are now in the program.
Excellent. Well, Laura, we're going to shift now and we're going to go on and we're going to talk to your colleague, Miss Lena Scott. Lena, how are you?
Hey Steve, how are you? I'm doing great.
Oh, it's good to see you. You got a hard act to follow now because we've had all that great information about that part of the program, and we're going to talk about cardiovascular tech programs in the region. So, Lena, tell us a bit about what you do and the programs that you manage in the
Sure. Well, I am the program instructor and clinical coordinator for cardiovascular technology and invasive side. I work beside Laura, our program director, and I pretty much handled our invasive side, just like I said. And we are the only accredited associate's degree program in the state for invasive and adult echocardiography. So we really enjoy what we're doing. We train our students not to be technicians, but to be technologists and to really, love what they do.
That's great. And one of your specialties is one of your areas of specialization is in fact invasive cardiovascular technology. So share with us some information about what's going on with that program and what developments are happening and what's going on with invasive cardiovascular technology. It's even hard for me to say, much less for you to teach and do all that kind of stuff. So I know it must just be incredible.
Yes, just like I was saying, what you saying that every time somebody asks me, well, what is it that you do? And I'm like, I would rather just send you a link. I'd rather just show you a video because it's a lot of stuff that we do, let alone our title. So my full title is a registered cardiovascular invasive specialist. A lot of us go by CVTs, but usually the step up from that is the RCIS. And we really have 3 jobs in one. We monitor, we scrub, and we circulate. We pretty much work in radiation up under sterile guidelines, and we work beside the cardiologist performing cardiac catheterizations. That's going to aid in the diagnosis and intervention on patients who have cardiovascular disease. We also, if you heard, people who have heart attacks, we are actually the people standing beside those physicians when we're doing stents and things like that. When you hear about somebody having a stent, that's pretty much my job. I'm helping that physician place those stents in and go in and doing angioplasty using balloons and wires inside the vessels of your heart. Not only that, but we also go in and do heart valves. I mean, it's just the field is extensive.
Absolutely. Now, do we have a monopoly on cardiovascular technology in our service district? Now, most people know that our college primarily serves Greenwood, Lawrence, Edgefield, Abbeville, McCormick, Newberry, and Saluda. But are there other cardiovascular technology programs in the region that we're competing with?
Well, there are other programs in the region, but going back to what I said before, we are the only accredited associate's degree program in the state for invasive cardiovascular technology and echocardiography. And in fact, to go further than that, you talked about the 7-county service area, going back to what Laura said earlier, we have a lot of local applicants, but our program serves students from across the state in Northeast Georgia, and approximately 40% of those students that we accept are from outside of that 7-county region. So even if we have other programs that compete with us, we are the only accredited one that they come to, and then they build their career off of that.
Okay. Well, when we're talking about clinical sites, and I'm getting the prompt, we have a video that's going to be shown while we're speaking about this, so everybody be prepared to listen to the video. But as we talk about that, where are your clinical sites, and are they, where they're located, where are people going to get this fantastic training? And what is the growth potential for your program?
Well, the invasive side uses about 13 clinical sites. It's been one of my goals is to expand our clinical sites since I came on board. Self being one of the hospitals that's actually backing up our program, and that's in Greenville, South Carolina. We also have ANMED, that's in Anderson. We have Doctors, that is in Augusta. We have MUSC, as well as Roper, that's in Charleston, South Carolina, Spartanburg, which is in Spartanburg, St. Francis, Providence, that's in Columbia, as well as Prisma Richland. We also have Lexington, Aiken, Prisma Greenville, and I want to say our newest one, which is going to be Regional Medical in Orangeburg.
Wow, that's incredible too. And for your student body, potential students that are in your program, Where are your students coming from? Are they as regional as they are in all other programs that we have in our health services?
Absolutely. We have students from all over. You know, I've had some students that are actually from Georgia, where I'm from, by the way, Georgia Peach, actually from Georgia.
Okay.
And I have students who are from North Carolina coming to the program. I have students from all over. So having all these clinical sites really helps them, especially if they can get a little closer to home.
Okay. Well, again, as with most places and in most conversations, it comes down to job availability and job management. So as we're talking about invasive cardiovascular technology, let's talk about pay and pay ranges for cardiac vascular sonographers.
Well, cardiovascular sonographers is going to be on the adult echo side, the non-invasive side. On my side, the invasive side, again, we have CVTs and then we have RCIS. So, you know, the pay range kind of jumps when you get that credential behind you. But
Sure.
in pay for cardiovascular technologists is around $59,620. Salary range in South Carolina could be anywhere from $29,000 or $28,000 to $86,000 a year.
You know, that's really interesting. I look back and think my first job out of college, I think I made about 20 grand. I had a 4-year degree from a college where that degree probably cost over $100,000. Thank God I was an athlete. And you're telling me now that we have students who can come into our programs, and with the training that they have, they can go out and they can make one heck of a wage with this training throughout our service districts.
Absolutely. And not to mention our program is from fall to fall. You know, our students graduate, and a lot of our students graduate with job offers. You know, one of the things that we teach them is that when you go to these clinic sites, that is an on-site job interview. So me and Laura, we train our students from the time they start our program to the time they leave about professionalism, communication, and not just those hard skills or those technical skills to get the job, but those skills to maintain the job, those soft skills, those work ethic skills that we talk about. So absolutely, we have students that graduate and get a job and start working and making way more than our educators. A lot of money, you know. So I'm happy about that. We're happy to be giving back to our community, especially for something that is needed.
Absolutely. I'm going to make a quick shift because I got to go back to Laura Boone. Laura, we're going to need you to, because you have a couple of clips that we missed. And we want you to talk about your clips and talk us through the clips that you have about cardiovascular technology and invasive cardiovascular technology.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about the ultrasound lab at Piedmont Tech. We have a fully functional echocardiography lab here. We're fortunate enough to have 5 echocardiography machines. We have 2 of those can perform vascular sonography studies, and then we have 3 vascular ultrasound machines as well that are separate from the echo machines. It looks, as you can tell, it looks very much like a hospital would look like when you kind of go through the lab. We have curtains to give each spot privacy, and these students are able to practice on each other, family members, and people from the community. We actually scanned 100 people from the community just prior to COVID, the fall prior to COVID, as they were practicing their skills. So they're able to practice a full routine protocol here. And then if we just happen to run into any pathology on those people, they can practice extending their protocol for pathology. What they're looking for is any irregularities with the heart. We teach them what normal is and what abnormal looks like, and they are able to then make measurements, use color Doppler, spectral Doppler, and try to give the cardiologist as much documentation and imagery that they can to prove what they think is wrong with that patient's heart that might be causing them some symptoms. So we're very fortunate in the ultrasound lab that we have here at Piedmont Tech.
You know, for both of you ladies, one of the things I do is when I'm hosting these shows, I do a little bit of research. You know, I do a little bit of research, and I try to find some relevance that I can add to the conversation. And one of the things that I do know is that with athletics, college athletics now, and professional athletics, cardiovascular technology has become a tremendous part of those fields. And one of the reasons is because there have been several incidents in the NFL and in high school and in college sports where athletes have collapsed. And now the research is being used ahead of time as part of a more extensive physical for athletes to try to identify arrhythmias. See, I know that word. I can even spell it right now too. Identify arrhythmias and other heart abnormalities that could lead to potential problems and even loss of life through athletic participation. So it's not just the traditional fields of medicine, but also in athletics and other things. Talk a little bit about how the field is emerging throughout all genres in society.
So I think it's interesting that you mentioned athletics. It is when these student athletes go and get their sports physicals, if the physician giving them the I can't talk, Steve. If they're going to get their sports physical and the physician hears an abnormality with their heart, then they end up getting an EKG, which tests the electrical part of their heart to see if they have any arrhythmias, like you said earlier. And then they can do an echocardiogram to check the structural parts of their heart. So do they have any heart enlargement? Do they have any valvular disease? And one particular disease that causes collapse during exertion is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And so all of that can be identified on echocardiography, and then the patient usually will end up with a heart cath, okay? And then during the heart cath, there is actually a procedure that they can do to correct for that. But we're on the front lines with for those people that are athletes for sure. And then another thing that you want to think about is congenital heart disease. Mm-hmm. Okay? Congenital heart disease, these babies that are born with, you hear a hole in their heart, okay? Those are cardiac shunts, okay? We have a special name for those, okay?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of congenital heart diseases that are found maybe just minutes or hours after a baby is born when they're not doing well, when they're having symptoms. So that is another big deal in terms of echocardiography and invasive cardiac cath.
That's great. Thank you. Lena, I understand you have a couple of videos too, and would you go ahead and cue your videos and share the information you have showcasing case prep and your invasive simulator?
Absolutely, Steve. One of the things that I mentioned earlier was that although the program is called Invasive Cardiovascular Technology, we are training our students and prepping them to get their RCIS, which is the Registered Cardiovascular Invasive Specialist Credential. And under that credential, our students are doing they're monitoring procedures, they're circulating procedures, and they're strubbing in. So that means they have to have a variety of technical skills. So on the videos, you'll see my student who is actually getting ready for a left heart cath procedure. She's grabbing equipment. We usually have a sheath, we have a wire, we have our sterile gloves and our catheters, of course. And what she's gonna do is she's gonna actually open up a back table. Everything inside that back table is gonna be sterile. And if you see the table, you'll see everything that's on a blue surface. If it's blue, that usually means don't touch it, okay? So that's what that means. So you'll see her dropping things onto that table sterilely. And once she's done with that, she's gonna actually put her gloves on. So we have two methods that we use to put on our gloves. We have the open method and we have the closed method. Usually just to sit up our tables, you will see our students just using the open method where they'll just have the gloves on. Once she gets done with the gloves, you'll see her go and pour her fluids. Usually we will have somebody else in the lab pouring fluids and doing that job. That's part of the circulator's job. But because we are training our students to do each job, she's going to do it today on that video. So she's pouring the fluids onto that sterile field sterilely, making sure not to contaminate anything. And soon after that, she's going to go ahead and actually scrub in. So you'll actually see her scrubbing her hands. And I know when Russell was actually videotaping her, she was like, "Oh, you actually scrub, you know, I thought you just washed your hands vigorously." Like, no, every single thing that we do affects our patients, it affects our physicians. So we want to make sure that we're doing them right, you know. And I always tell my students, imagine if this patient was your mom, your dad. We always treat our patients like we want to be treated. So we do everything right. We don't take the long way or any shortcuts. So you'll see her scrubbing in, and then you'll actually see her putting on her gown and on her gloves using closed method. Closed method is when they actually have the gown on. You won't see her fingertips coming out of that gown. Everything is completely closed. She's gonna put on that gown and go ahead and start prepping our patient. Speaking of that scrub usually takes about 6 minutes, by the way. I know Russell's like, "Oh man, this is taking a long time." That scrub usually takes about 6 minutes if you're doing it correctly. Okay. So once she scrubs in, she starts to set up that patient. The whole time, you know, this procedure is very intimidating. Anytime you come into the cath lab, we have so much machinery in there. It's so intimidating to our patients. So the whole time we're talking to them like, you know, this is what we're doing. We're going to make sure we let you know that we're going to expose your groin. You know, you're going to be uncovered for a second, but we're going to get you covered right back up. We're right here with you every step of the way. And then we clean them with cold soap, and it has what we call chlorhexidine and alcohol in it. And you'll also see on the video a blue tint. That blue tint lets us know what we can touch when we have our gloves on and what we cannot. Of course, if that patient doesn't have any tint on her, then that will show us that, hey, that patient isn't clean, I can't touch that. So when we go to clean, you see that blue on you, that's where we actually clean off your groin so we can touch that sterilely. And so we put that down there, we put on our drape. Our drape is just a big old table cover with some holes in it. And those holes have some specific names called fenestrations. Those fenestrations go over the access site. And in this case, we're prepping for a femoral groin access. So once she gets that on, she's going to get it prepped and get it ready for the physician to come in to gain access. And then she's going to move down the table. And down the table is called technologist territory. That's where she's in control of everything. So she's going to set up what we call a manifold system, which is what we're going to use to administer our fluids, our contrast. And contrast is what's going to go in and allow us to see our vessels up under radiation. So it's going to displace that blood and just move it out the way so that we can see the vessels and see whatever stenoses that we might need to go in and fix. So that's a challenge in itself, actually setting up that manifold system. Once she does that, she's pretty much basically ready for the physician to come on in. And once they come on in, then we start our procedure. And you can actually look at the simulator video, and that's going to show you what an actual procedure looks like up under radiation. And we're blessed to have that. That's our new simulator. It's called Mentis Vis Lab. And that's just going to allow us to do the whole procedure instead of just sitting up for it. It's kind of hard to teach it if you can't see it. And so, you know, these group of students are very blessed to have the simulator so we can actually see what's going on the other side of the procedure.
Wow, this is just incredible information that we're getting here. And, you know, sometimes us, you know, administrative types who are working up in the front and that never get back down to the lab, we don't know all of this intimate detail about what goes on. But, you know, let me ask you this. This is a question, and Laura, you can chime in here as well. I'm a student and I want to go into cardiovascular technology. Depending on whichever field I choose, how long is it going to take me to be ready to go out and do this work?
Go ahead, Lena.
Oh, I thought he sent it back to you. It's okay.
This is the open session.
So what actually has happened, we have gone from 5 semesters to 4 semesters. So we have our students come in the fall. And so we go from fall to fall. So it's 1 year of vigorous training and clinical work, didactic coursework that we pretty much put our students through for them to be ready to take their boards by graduation.
Okay. Anything to add,
I'll
Laura?
just add one thing, Steve. They do have to take their prerequisites before coming, their program ready courses before coming into the program. So it will take them a little bit longer than 4 semesters, but she's talking about from when you start the actual program to where you finish is 4 semesters.
Okay. Well, while I have you there, Laura, would you please take us through the echo simulator? Talk to us about the echo simulator while we run this clip.
So we have an echo simulator by HeartWorks. It's really cool because it's anatomically correct. It has virtual beating 3D heart. It allows the students to sort of practice manipulating the probe and seeing where they are within the heart. When they compare the ultrasound images to the 3D model side by side. Okay, it also has 25 different pathologies on it, which means they can simulate extending their normal protocol. So on everybody, you get a normal protocol of about 65 video clips, measurements, images of the heart. But then when pathology is discovered by the technologist, they actually extend the protocol to measure additional things so that the doctor knows exactly what's going on with that valve or that chamber of the heart. This is a good feature to have those pathology cases in there because it has some rare pathology that they might not be exposed to during their clinical rotations. So they're actually able to go in and simulate some things to make sure that they are competent at it for that case for when they do see it, because they're eventually going to see it. So it's really cool that they're able to do that. And in the video clip, it's actually a case of mitral stenosis. Number one cause for mitral stenosis is rheumatic fever. Rheumatic fever has almost been eradicated in the United States because we have such a good health system. People are getting treatment when they get strep, okay? They're getting the antibiotics. But this is still very common in third world countries. So anyways, we're very lucky to have the invasive and the echo simulator. Those are recent additions. We've got one last year and one the year prior. So we feel like we can give our students the best practice that they can get. What other questions do you have, Steve? I'm sure you got.
Well, I think you both exhausted all the questions. You've done a fantastic job of clarifying things and just sharing a tremendous amount of information about our cardiovascular technology program. I know that our healthcare and science programs are some of the most popular programs in our region and outside of our region and in the country for that matter. And to know that our institution has such a fine core of leaders and instructors and to be providing these services for students in our service districts is just phenomenal. I'll close by saying I've always been, for the last probably 30 years or so, very intimately connected to cardiovascular technology because at 18 years of age, my younger brother was playing in a basketball game and he collapsed and he didn't get up. And the technology may or may not have been in place at that time to really adequately diagnose what had happened to him. Years later, after more and more things came out and my mother pressing, we found that the cause of death for him was hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And now in athletics, they are diagnosing that very early. And there have been a number of cases where students have been on the proper protocol or received the necessary treatment, student athletes, to be able to continue to participate. And from a former college athlete and now wannabe way washed up athlete, I can appreciate that more and more. And also from a family where heart conditions and heart health has been a problem, I can appreciate that as well. So I want to commend you both and say thank you for all the great work that you're doing and the training of our students, including my own family member, Anisha, who's graduated from that program. And thank you for sharing all of this wonderful information with us. Another fantastic program from Piedmont Technical College. Miss Laura Boone and Miss Lena Scott, thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us, Steve. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you all. And this has been Steve Coleman with another episode of PTC Live, and we'll be continuing to bring you these insightful and informational programs throughout the course of our time here on air and about our institution. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode of PTC Live.